RX Television on rxmuscle.com. This is Ask Dave, better known as hashtag Ask Dave, brought to you by Species Nutrition. Visit speciesnutrition.com. I'm your host, Sadiq Faruqi. This is your 30-minute question and answer show with Dave Palumbo. All your questions on diet, training, supplementation, IFBB pros, competitions, life, whatever it is on your mind, it is all on the table. As we now bring in Dave Palumbo. Dave, a couple of days ago, you did an interview with an Iranian bodybuilder. Now, last week, you did the rant about getting Hadi Chupin to the Olympia. Hadi Chupin, of course, Olympia qualified, but unable to get his visa to enter the United States. A very, very telling interview with another rising star coming out of Iran right now on rxmuscle.com.
Yeah, Bahruz Tabani is tremendous talent, this guy. And, he's in the military now because I guess, like Israel, Iran, you have to serve 2 years in your country. If you go right to college out of high school, then you can kind of get away with it and delay it a little bit. But he's in the military for 2 years, but he'll be done soon. The problem is Iran won't even let people out of their country anymore. So it's terrible when the political climate really dictates to the athletes what they can and can't do, and you become almost like a victim of that. But this guy is he's 26 years old. I can't even believe the talent pool we're seeing coming out of Iran with the bodybuilders. But I got to give King Kamali credit because he predicted it. He said there's a bunch of guys running around there that you're not going to believe how good they are, and he was right. He really is. So I'm impressed. Whether they actually, if we can break this Cold War we have going on and allow the athletes to start crossing out of the country and coming to the United States to compete, I think it could change the landscape of bodybuilding, really.
So again, that interview live with Bahruz Tabani right now at rxmuscle.com and the YouTube channel. Let's go to the questions. Our first two questions from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. The first question from Melanie: what do you think about T-ball for females, and how would you dose it?
Here's the problem with T-ball. Okay, back in the 50s when they developed, steroids, and all the East German women, because back then Germany was split, East Germany, West Germany. The West Germany was like the United States, type of government. Then East Germany was like Russia and Soviet Union. And the East German women were given Tyrannobol, which was T-ball. Okay, they created it so that they have an advantage. And the big joke was all the East German women looked like East German men. They couldn't tell the difference because they got so many side effects from T-ball. Because it was really a cut rate Dianabol. Dianabol and Tyrannobol are very, very similar in their effect. Dianabol is stronger, but Tyrannobol has got plenty of side effects to go along with it as well. Once again, I'm not thrilled with orals, but in general, but for women, it's way too strong. You will get a lot of side effects, and here's the problem, and I've said this before in the show. Side effects with women are not instantaneous, because steroids don't act instantaneously. They're cumulative. You could do 4 weeks of T-ball, and you might not notice the side effects. They're there, believe me, and they will come out. Even if you stop it after 4 weeks, you will still see it continue. You cannot use this drug. It's too strong for women to use. It's unnecessary. Winstrol and Anavar are fine to get the gains that you want as a woman. Okay, there's no massive bodybuilders anymore, so it's not like women have to compete with all these, huge women in the bodybuilding world. So, the only reason why a woman would want to use a strong drug like that was because they're lazy and they don't want to work, for a couple of years to get where they need to be. But I'll tell you something. If you can get the physique that you want and still have a beautiful face and not ruin your body, and not ruin yourself with side effects, that's the winning combination.
Second question, again from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. It's from Chris. Dave, I want to add some oral Winstrol and Anavar to my current TRT to increase things just a touch. Would you do them both at the same time, or 6 weeks of one and then 6 weeks of the other? And at what dose do you suggest?
If you're combining them with testosterone, yeah, you might as well just do 1 and 1. This way you have something to switch to. You can even do 8 weeks of each if you wanted to. They're both fast acting, so it doesn't matter which one you start with. Winstrol's a little stronger, so maybe start with Anavar, 30 milligrams per day with your testosterone TRT, and then do 8 weeks of that, and then another 8 weeks of maybe like 25 milligrams of Winstrol per day with your TRT testosterone. That would be fine.
Let's go to our Instagram questions. Again, you can follow us at official.rxmuscle. Let's go to Magnolia Monster. I hate this show more Hates us so much, I'd rather sit through a Kai Green epiphany. Dave, can you clarify the true difference in results from pharmacy-grade HGH versus UGL generic HGH? A lot of guys don't have the money for pharma, but a lot of pros say you literally burning your cash buying generics. What are your thoughts?
Here's the problem. The thoughts are that you don't know what you're getting, okay, when you're buying a generic. It could be fully dosed. Look, I've seen generics, okay, that were probably higher dose than what they should be. And I think I've discussed this with a lot of people, and I think what's happening is I don't think the Chinese people are putting out fake GH. I think what's happening is when it's being shipped over here, it's not in a climate-controlled environment. And a lot of times if it gets really hot or even too cold, because if GH is frozen, it will destroy it. It weakens it or kills it off. So I think a lot of these products are actually good when they leave the factory in China, but then when they get to the United States, they're really not that functional. Back in the day, when we would transport GH, everything was on ice, okay? When we bought it, when we took it home, when we moved it, when we gave it to other people, it was on ice all the time, always climate controlled. We didn't, that was just the thing you did. It was, GH had to be refrigerated, Now I understand that some of the new ones, like Serostim and some of them, don't need to be refrigerated till they're mixed, but that also means that's only if you keep them at room temperature. That doesn't mean you can heat it up to 90 degrees or bring it down to 0 degrees. So I think that's what the problem is. Most of the times when you're bringing over stuff from another country, it's the climate control issues. Now, there might be some other deceptive type of manufacturing going on as well. What we do know is if you're getting American-made GH that's coming from from a pharmacy, it's good. That's the bottom line. That that's good, and that's why it's safer to use, and that's why I tell people if you have access to something that's pharmacy grade, you're better off taking that and using a lower dosage to this because it might be more expensive than taking a large dosage of stuff that you don't even know what you're putting into your body. So you could take 2 or 3 IUs of Serostim a day, make each little bottle last you a week. And you got 7 weeks in a box. I mean, that's even if you're paying $700 for a box, that's still pretty damn cheap, considering, that you're getting high potency GH. And you're going to get good results because that's what I did back in the day. 3 IUs a day and maybe 4 IUs of Neutropin. That was enough. That's all people did, and they got great results because the growth hormone was real and it was full potency. And I think that's where people are having issues.
Carlston Iron Burner. Dave, did you ever take blood tonic during your bodybuilding career, and if so, why?
Blood tonic? I don't even know what that is, to be honest with you. I always say, if I don't know something, I don't know it. I don't know. I have to Google it. It might be a term for something that I do know, but I never heard of the term blood tonic.
So let me throw something out there. What if he meant by a blood purifier?
I don't even know what that would mean. I don't know. I don't know what blood. I never heard the term before, to be honest with you. Blood tonic.
Let's go to another question.
Maybe Rob, something to clean the blood. I don't know. I don't even know what to say. So I'm stumped.
We'll take another question from Rob MT03. How do you feel about today's top classic physique competitors in relation to the 80s physique, such as the Bob Paris, Barry Durney, etc., or anyone that has the classic look, or rather, the part B of the question is, has the classic look advanced with modern times?
Mm-hmm. I like some of the classic physique guys. I think they're awesome, but I like the classic physique guys that look more like bodybuilders almost, that are more complete. A lot of these classic guys are just guys that are kind of starting out and they just don't have enough muscle yet. And so while they have nice lines, I see gaps in their physique. And I have a feeling a lot of those guys that are pros now, once they do fill out their physiques, will go to the open category, maybe even 212 category. But there are some guys that have really very, like Breon Ansley. The reason I think he's such a good classic guy is that he has a complete physique with mature muscle, with no gaps in his physique. And here's a guy who doesn't need to add any more muscle necessarily to his frame. Whereas there's a lot of guys, like even I see a Chris Bumstead, he's got a great physique, but here's a guy who could actually put on 20 pounds onto his physique and probably compete in the open if he wanted to. There are different types of physiques out there. I think the great thing about the classic division is that you're always seeing new talent come into it, and seems like there's always some guy with crazier genetics than the next. So it's a division where you can make an impact right away because you don't have to put on 100 pounds of muscle before you do. Whereas for bodybuilding, to get a new guy to come in and all of a sudden wow the bodybuilding world, it takes a long time for that. And so we don't see as many of that. But it seems like with Classic, every year we get 2 or 3 new guys that we're like, holy mackerel, where did this guy come from? And that's exciting for the sport.
Matt Tracy, Dave, I'm getting Dino Surgery soon. What kind of diet do you recommend while in recovery?
I think I would eat the normal food you eat. Obviously, before you get surgery, you can't take any nutritional supplements 2 weeks before the surgery because a lot of them, like fish oils and vitamin E, will cause excessive bleeding, inhibits clotting factors, which is good on a regular basis, but not when you're getting, blood vessels snipped and stuff like that. So that's just my, my belief. I wouldn't purposely lower or change anything. Eat like you were still training at the gym because your body's still, believe me, recovering from gyno surgery is like recovering from a workout. You still need to give your body raw materials it needs to do that.
Josh Freeman, Dave, there seems to be mixed answers on whether or not finasteride can be taken while on DECA. Can you give me your opinion? Also, what dosage would you recommend?
Yeah, I don't know what with this finasteride and DECA and Trenbolone. Look, I took it with it. I didn't have any problems. I don't know. I think sometimes you start looking into the minutia of things, and you overlook what's really happening. I don't think there's any problem taking Trenbolone. Taking finasteride with DECA. You're not going to cause worse hair loss or worse prostate issues. It's just not going to happen. A good dosage of finasteride is probably anywhere from 1 milligram per day to 2.5 milligrams. I've been taking 2.5 milligrams per day for years. I started at 1 milligram and I didn't feel like I got that much. Someone else told me, you know what, 2.5 is the sweet spot. I went to 2.5 milligrams per day, and like I said, I've been on it since about 2001, and continuously. I think the only time I stopped was when I was trying to get my wife pregnant because we read that finasteride was, would make it hard to get her pregnant. And I don't know if that helped or not, but I went right back on it after she got pregnant. So maybe I took off, 3, 4, or 5 weeks or something like that. So to me, I like it. I'll tell you why. I use it for my hair loss. I don't think it regrew any hair, but I think it might have stopped my hair loss from happening. But I will tell you this: my dad had prostate issues, in his life, and my prostate, knock on wood, it seems perfect. I don't know, my PSA is good. My DHT levels are in line, which is weird because I'm not on any hormone replacement. I take 2.5 milligrams per day of finasteride, and my DHT levels are still normal. They're low normal, but they're not like too low, which tells you I probably naturally produce a lot of DHT, which is probably I'm a good candidate for taking that. So I think that's important to understand that not everyone needs finasteride, but if you are prone to high DHT levels. And that usually means if you lose hair easily, if you have acne, if you do have any prostate issues, you might want to stay on it. And I look at it this way: even if I'm not growing more hair, it's kidney protective. It's prostate protective.
Nate Flex, Dave, love your show. Do you feel that low test, high anabolic cycles can be effective, just low doses in general? For example, 250 mg testosterone cypionate and 400 mg of DECA or equipoise weekly for 16 weeks.
Look, any steroid cycle is going to build muscle, okay? I'm sure if I took that type of cycle right now, I'd probably put on 20 pounds of muscle because my body would, muscle memory. However, if you're looking to be really big and put on significant amounts of muscle mass, you're not going to do it on low dosages like that. That's not to say you need to take 5,000 milligrams a week, but there is a certain threshold amount that you need to take, and I believe the sweet spot is about 1,000 milligrams of testosterone a week. And you can debate me on that, that's fine. But my point is that you're not going to grow on small dosages to the maximum effect. So it depends on what your goals are.
We have a question on Stan Efferding's vertical diet. Just so you know, we do have plans to have Stan on next week, Wednesday, on Live with Dave. I know I didn't tell you that, but he just confirmed a couple of hours ago. So he is good to go to appear on Live with next Wednesday. Let's go to Panos. Dave, your thoughts on combining fats and carbs together in a meal, not in an off-season. Is it theoretically wrong? Is it true? Because both of them are energy sources. One of them will be stored as fat.
They're energy sources, but they get used differently. Fats get used in slow, sustained movements, okay? Carbs get used for fast, explosive type movements. So you need both. Also, fat is used to build and repair muscle, to make hormones and all kinds of stuff. That's why fats are necessary in the diet. They're not just a fuel source. If you combine them in the same meal, it doesn't matter because carbs cause insulin release. Insulin stores carbs in the muscles as glycogen. It stores carbs as fat. It doesn't store fat as fat. So that's a misnomer. So there's nothing wrong with eating protein, fats, and carbs all in the same meal. Obviously, you're going to eat a higher amount of protein because that's what we really need. Fats will be a certain, based on your weight, anywhere from 15 grams per meal to 25, 30 grams per meal, depending on how heavy you are. And then carbs are dependent on, what your fuel requirements are. So nothing wrong with that. You don't have to separate your foods.
Damien T5 says he just bought Fiberlize. Can I take my T3 or Clen or Novadex before or after having Fiberlize?
I would probably take it, and then maybe like 20 minutes later do your fiber shake. I don't like to mix fiber really with anything. It really theoretically should only block fat absorptions or fat absorption, like fat soluble type stuff. But who knows? I just separate my fiber shake from everything else I do, if I can do it. Sometimes I'm in a rush and I take everything at once, pills, fiber, run out of the house for the day. But most of the time I try to just separate them.
Let's go to Noah the Fox. Dave, your take on the barbell bench press. Arnold and Franco loved it and have some of the best chest development ever. Now, a lot of pros are saying it's too risky and to do incline only instead. Is the reward worth the risk?
At some point of my career, like after a couple of years, I started doing mostly all incline work because I found that, when you do incline presses, you're still working the lower mid pecs. You're just preferentially working the upper pecs. And what I find in my experience is that most people, 99.9% of bodybuilders, have weaker, doesn't mean they have weak chest, weaker upper chest than mid chest and lower chest. That's just the way it works. So I always did mostly incline stuff. Once in a while, maybe once a month, I would flat bench press. And it's just because I just felt that I got more out of my chest workouts when I was targeting incline work. Now, when I say incline, I mean, I'm not at a big steep angle. I'm probably almost, it looks like you're almost flat, just a little bit, maybe 20, 30 degrees I was bench pressing at. And I thought it made a world of difference.
Let's go to Glenner Dude. Best way to hit legs if your lower back is screwed. Also, thoughts on spinal surgeries?
It's a tough question to answer because I don't know how bad you are. I always tell people to limit themselves by what your pain level is and what your body is intuitively telling you to do and not do. I guess theoretically you can do hack squats and leg presses and build leg mass. I just think without free weight squatting you lose that beautiful shape to your legs. But then again, some of it's genetic anyway. So look, you got to do what you can do. I'm not happy that when I go to the gym I can't do the workouts I want because my one bad shoulder that's left that I have to get replaced is still there and it's inhibiting me. But I still do what I can do in the gym because it makes me feel good to leave the gym to know I did something. And at some point when I get this fixed, I'll be able to start training again. I'm not going to train like I'm training for the Olympia, but I could certainly train heavier and not have to worry about pain on everything I do. And I understand that it's frustrating, but stick with what your body intuitively tells you.
Shocked sales guy question. I recently watched Victor Conti, it's a name we haven't heard in a while, on Joe Rogan's podcast, and he spoke of the importance of zinc. Dave, could you speak to that end, and was zinc included in a past video where you spoke of 6 vitamins which are an absolute must?
No, I talked about 6 nutritional products I thought were a must. I have zinc in my V mineralized formula. Look, let's face it, you can't be taking every single mineral and vitamin and trace metal separately. You'd have 400 bottles a day. I created a multivitamin, multi-mineral formula with some fruit and vegetable extracts in it called V-Mineralized, which makes everything easy. All the minerals are chelated, including zinc. It's in there in the right proportions, in the right amounts. You take 5 pills twice a day and you don't even have to worry about it. And you got everything you possibly need in there. The only thing I tell people to take a little extra is extra vitamin D3. I think you can do another 5,000 units of that a day because you never can get too much of that. I only have 2,000 units, which is still a very high dosage in my multivitamin. The problem is, if you put too much in, there's no room for all the other stuff. Zinc is important, but it's an important component in conjunction with the other minerals, magnesium and calcium and iodine, and and the list goes on, chromium. So you can't just say one thing is more important than everything else. It's the combination of all of them together.
Protein King 95, and of course, whetting the appetite for those looking for Olympia coverage, of course, roughly 7.5 weeks away. He wants to know how you think Regan Grimes stacks up against the likes of Chris Bumstead and Breon Ansley.
I think Regan is a tremendous talent. I think his biggest obstacle is going to be making weight. You know, he's got a lot of weight to drop. It's not going to be easy to keep doing that. I predicted that this would be his last year doing this classic division. I think he just snuck down into that last show. He you know, he's going to have a problem with it. But I think that Bumstead could win the Olympia this year. I think it's going to be, once again, between him and Breon Ansley, and I think that it's going to come down right to the end. And it's going to be who the judges like better, because I think both of these guys are going to look great.
To Omash, your thoughts on front-loading AAS. According to Llewellyn Anabolic's 10th edition, the most effective dosage of test was 600 mg for 6 to 8 weeks, after which it starts to have diminishing returns. Is there really that much more benefit versus side effects when running 1 gram of test compared to 600 mg? If 1 gram is more effective, when is the right time for a bodybuilder to start using this amount, example, after 5 cycles or after he's big enough?
I think 1,000 milligrams per week is ideal for testosterone usage and building maximal mass and thickness. Someone else, my friend Doug Wentz had told me that's what you got to do. And at the time, I think I was doing like 500 milligrams a week. And I'm like, you sure? That sounds like so much. You know, today people laugh at that. But I said, all right, I'll try it. And you know what? I grew like that was the perfect magic dosage for me to use, that I started seeing results, and I didn't have massive side effects from it. I just think it works. You know, I just think that, anything less than that, you're going to get results, but you're not going to maximize your results. And how, when should you start that? Who knows? After maybe 2 or 3 cycles, I mean, you can work up to that. You'll know when you're at that stage where you're not responding from the weaker drugs, and it's time to go to test. And you'll know that when you're on test a couple of cycles, you know what, it's not working so good. Maybe I should bump it up to 1,000 milligrams a week at this point, rather than sticking with 250 or 500 or 750. And I think you'll see a big difference. I really do.
Dean Nicholson, here's one that's a little out of the bodybuilding realm, but what gear would you recommend for an MMA fighter?
It's a very tough question, because you guys the UFC guys get tested. I don't know if it's random or not, but I know that I think it might be, but they definitely get tested in competition. If you're getting tested in competition, it becomes an IQ test of knowing when to start and stop things. I'm not going to go over it on this show. It's too complicated. You can, do a consultation with me if you're in that arena. But, you have to understand that there are rules, and if you're breaking the rules, you're subject to their, banishment and or fines that they're going to put in there. So, think about it, what you want to do before you really go ahead and do it and make a stupid mistake.
Now, the answer to this question might be as simple as ISO bag, but I imagine this is a scenario that many bodybuilders and aspiring bodybuilders go through on a daily basis. So we'll ask the question. It's from TJ the Jet. I drive a tractor trailer for a living, so most of my meals will be on the road. I bring my ice lines with me, but I would also like to have actual food as well, but I have a hard time coming up with a good high-protein meal because to pack it in a lunch and eat cold, because most of the time I don't have a microwave. I know I can just suck it up and have cold chicken, rice, or whatever, but just curious if you had any ideas or something that is yummy that I could stay on track.
You're talking to the king of the cold food. I'll eat cold pizza out of the refrigerator. I love it. But the bottom line is, if you like warm food, pack your meals in, like you said, like an ISO bag. We sell the Species ISO bags. They're awesome. You pack your meals, and if you like them warmed up, like I have, a couple of guys in my office at work, they stick their food in the microwave, warm it up, and they eat their food. I mean, that's the best way to do it. I mean, you got to prepare. If you don't prepare your meals and bring them, you won't eat them. And you'll eat junk food, and that's not going to build muscle.
Courtney Thompson, is synthol the only answer for getting calves to grow?
To get what to grow?
Calves.
No, I mean, you could train them too, obviously. I mean, that's probably the #1 reason. But synthol usage, like Chris Clark's Chris Clark's Synthesize, and my friend Steve DeLuca's Painless Pumps product that I sell on DavePalumbo.com, both of them, they're great. They'll definitely help your calves. But, train your calves. That's really what's going to build them the biggest. You know, it's a combination. I always felt that calves grew best if you did 2 sets twice a week, and 2 sets of 15 with heavy enough weight to stimulate the muscle. But what I find is if you do too many sets of calves over and over and over again, what happens is you can't even feel your calves anymore. You're fatiguing the bottom of your foot so much so that you can't contract with that much weight on your back anymore, and you're getting a crappy workout.
Stop me if we asked this question recently, but Sarush SRD wants to know, how long before a show would you cut out growth hormone altogether?
For some clients, I cut it out 2 weeks before. For other people, I never cut it out because they look really good on it. So it depends. If a guy's very watery and he's a little sloppy looking, you know, in terms of his body became a water balloon from eating it, from taking GH, I'll have them stop 2 weeks out. Sometimes I might put it back in the last 2 days because it takes a lot longer than 2 days to have side effects. But it really is, once again, it's a perfect person-specific type of thing.
Third Degree Muscle Dave, I'm friends with Coach Trevor from Enhance, and he advised me to cut growth 10 to 14 days out. My current coach wants me to cut it at 7 days. I'm worried if I cut it at 14 days and keep going 50 minutes of stairs that I'll burn muscle without the growth in there and shrink up the last 2 weeks. Your thoughts?
Well, if you're on anabolic steroids, you're not shrinking at all. Okay, the steroids will preserve the muscle. The question is, how lean are you? Are you getting distended from it? If you are, then it's probably a good idea to stop it, maybe put it back in, like I said, the last 2 days. That's really up to you. And you got to be honest with yourself. Do you look better or do you look worse with the GH? A lot of guys look way better, fuller, rounder, and that's just the way it is. So if I forget what he said he's taking, but if you cut back to 2 IUs a day, you should have no problem staying on it.
We had a question recently about rear delts. Actually, you know what? I'm going to skip that one. Mike, who lives, and this is another classic physique-related question. How many grams of healthy fat is best per meal or per day based on classic physique frame, 6'2", 245 pounds?
I'm gonna make your job real easy. Go buy my Omega Lyse formula. Take 3 pills, 3 capsules, gel caps, twice a day, and you never have to worry about another essential fatty acid ever. It's all in there. In the right dosages, from fish oil, coming from salmon oil, or anchovy oil, to evening primrose oil, excuse me, for your omega-6 fats. Obviously, the omega-3 fats, your DHA, EPA, coming from fish oils. And then you got your palmitoleic acid omega-7 fats, which are really good for insulin sensitization and for lowering total body inflammation. That's all you need. You don't need anything else. I did it purposely to make it easier to take your supplemental essential fatty acid supplements. 3 pills twice a day, you're done.
Mr. Miyagi, or Mr. Yagi rather, where is Victor Richards and what is he doing today?
I interviewed him a number of years ago, I believe, for my radio show. He's still around. I think he's living in Portland or something like that, or Oregon somewhere. He's happy. He's got his kids. He works out. I try to get, he's got a lot of very strong political stances, but that's just always been Victor Richards. I don't think he'll ever compete again. He didn't really look like he had much muscle left on his body. But you know what? If he's happy, then hey, that's great. He was one of the freakiest guys, though, back in the 90s.
Forever Fitness 07. You might want to think a second before you answer this one. The best moment of your bodybuilding career?
It's a tough one. A great moment was placing second at the USA in 2003. It was also one of the most depressing moments because I really thought I was going to win and get my pro card. I thought, cause once they announced me in second, I really believed I was much better than Chris Cook. He was really smooth at that show. I was more concerned with Matt Duval, may he rest in peace, and Eddie Moisen at that show, and I beat them. And then I said, you know what the hell's going on here? And I want to take in second. So that was a great highlight. It was also terrible. I'd probably say that, winning Junior Nationals was really good in '95. I really enjoyed that win. Probably in the bodybuilding world, getting a Metrex contract was my dream back in the day. So that was huge, meeting Scott Connolly and all that stuff. That was super exciting. But, it's tough because I never really, won the USA and the Nationals. So, I had so many seconds, it was hard to say, what was really great. I guess in 2002, when I placed second behind Tony Freeman at the NPC Nationals in Dallas, that was super exciting because I didn't expect to get that. So placing second like that was great. And actually, Tony and I were pretty close to that show. So that was a highlight, I guess. And, you know, probably getting featured in Muscular Development magazine. Steve Blackman had Per Bernal shoot me, and there was some great photo shoots that were published in that. Those were probably, I was probably more proud of that than of anything because it's in stone. It's, you know, it's there forever.
That is going to do for this episode of Ask Dave, brought to you by Species Nutrition. Again, visit speciesnutrition.com. For Dave Palumbo and our producer Tyler Shore, I'm Sadiq Faruqi. We'll see you next time.